What's up guys, welcome to Vintage Genetics, where it is all about classic bodybuilding, and today it's going to be a chest workout, pretty much an old school chest workout with some slight details being changed because of one simple fact. My left tricep tendon was pretty messed up for a good while, and I wasn't able to do any tricep movements at all. Even just extending my arm really hurt. So even doing rope pushdowns with the lightest possible weight, it really hurt. So doing any chest movements, which automatically involves the triceps, also really hurt. So a few weeks later, we are here, and I'm now able to do most exercises quite heavily, but I won't go as heavy as I used to go, because then I might aggravate the tricep again, because inevitably when you go to the last few reps of the super heavy sets, you will always use different muscles a bit more than you kind of want to, because you're literally pushing everything possible upwards when training the chest. So if you look at my grip right here, it's as wide as possible, because here when your tricep is hurting, you can literally feel the tricep working more if you have a more narrow grip compared to the wide grip. This honestly is the grip I used for a very long time. It's the same grip Arnold Schwarzenegger uses for his incredible chest. So the wider the grip, if you go all the way down, you will stretch the chest out even more and use less of the triceps. And this, by the way, is my dad, who I'm working out with. Always great to have a good spotter with you and a great training partner. But what I wanted to tell you is that if you really want to emphasize the chest on each and every chest movement, the wider the grip, usually the more chest is involved, because the stretch is what causes the growth in the chest. But since my triceps were lacking after a while and my chest was quite good compared to the triceps, I made my grip more narrow, so my triceps actually also did some work, allowing them to grow alongside with an already good chest. So that was my reasoning for having a more narrow grip. Now here, because it's going to be a heavier weight and I'm warmed up already, my grip is a bit more narrow, still quite wide as you can see, because when you go down, my upper arm, my lower arm, is not straight down. And if it is straight down, that's when you know you have the right type of grip width. But the wider the grip, the less that is the case. But you still will hit the chest a whole lot more. Do keep in mind that at the same time, you won't be able to do as much weight using this grip width. But as a bodybuilder, that doesn't matter. We are not powerlifters, we are not strongmen, we are bodybuilders, and we are all about building the muscles. And when you're training the chest, that's exactly what you want to do. So normally, I'm able to do about 30 kilos more compared to this set, but now I'm really focusing on the chest, so the bodybuilder in me is telling me use mind-muscle connection, so take out all the tricep involvement and really only focus on the chest, and that automatically makes the exercise more difficult. Normally I would go heavier, but as I said, it would aggravate the tricep, which would bring me back to square one, and that's not what we want, because I'm prepping for the Olympia and I'm going to train as smartly, intelligently, and as heavy as I still can. At least with the chest, because all the other movements are no problem. And this is the second working set. So the working set before this was simply rep out as many reps as you can in between the 8 and 12 rep range and go to failure. And this one was paused reps until failure, which is a great intensifying technique. Instead of just using straight sets, you can actually use paused reps or drop sets every now and then to spice up the workout and to, burn some extra calories. And with that I mean, with burning calories, it's not about burning extra fat. It's actually going to allow you to eat more food for more growth. So never look at the training as in a fat burning tool, but more as in utilizing more carbs to fuel your muscles. That's the tool you should have in mind when training using those intensifying techniques. And of course, I'm doing some poses in between the sets just to see where I'm at. And I'm quite happy with where I'm at right now. This is about 13 and a half weeks out from the Olympia. And for me, the upper body is getting ready quite quickly. The abs for me always come the latest in shape, but the legs and the upper body are, quite on par with where they need to be. And whenever they are completely ready, that's when the hamstrings and the calves even and the abs come in very, very sharp. But I'm quite happy with the fullness I have right now. I can definitely see the improvements I've made, because you can only see the true improvements once you lose that layer of fat you built in the off season, which we all inevitably build if you want to build some quality mass. Here I'm doing some dumbbell presses, just some simple dumbbell presses. And the benefit of using this one, if you are very strong, is that if you do an exercise beforehand, this one will become a bit more difficult. So the most difficult part for me about this is the lift off, or taking the dumbbells from the ground and then lifting them off in the air for the first rep. That is the most difficult and most injury prone part of the whole set. The rest of the reps are very easy, and because there's not a lot of people around and it's our own gym, I can actually drop these dumbbells when I'm done, which makes it a lot more less injury prone as well. I do not recommend doing that in a heavy gym, in a heavy populated gym, or in a gym where the owner doesn't want you to. But here, the dumbbells and the floor, nothing can happen to them and no one is around, so that's a very safe option to save your shoulders and even your biceps trying to catch the weight without having to drop it. So here I'm taking advantage of my dad, the training partner right here, to lift up the dumbbells, so I only have to press them out. Because when I'm alone and I do the 70 kilo dumbbells, for example, when I start the workout, it takes a whole lot of energy to take those dumbbells out of the rack, walk to your bench, set yourself up, and push those dumbbells up for the first rep. It takes out maybe 1, 2, or 3 reps you could have done, and now I can simply go from the first rep to the last rep with full power, and that's what you want. So also here I'm also watching out for the tricep, because each and every chest movement, especially when you're going heavier and heavier, will involve more triceps, and that's not what you want to do if you actually feel an impingement in the triceps or in the tendon or in the joint, which a lot of people do. And of course, this is my dad as well, repping out some lighter dumbbells. You always have to pick a weight that you feel most comfortable with, that you can at least do 10 to 12 reps or 8 to 12 reps or 15 to 20 reps, which are 2 rep ranges which are great for the growth of the muscle. And this is actually a new ATX multi-grip barbell, and it's 16 kilograms. A lot of these barbells don't actually mention how much weight is being used by default on the bar. It's 16 kilograms, so then you know exactly what you're lifting up, because all bars that are different from the regular straight barbells weigh different amounts. Almost never they weigh exactly 20 kilos. And also the benefit of this multi-grip bar is that when you sew and you put it actually on the rack behind me, it's the other multi-grip bar actually went all the way to the weights, and you were pretty much unable to put it on the rack behind me, which was very impractical. And this one has that practicality built in. And the reason why I'm doing this exercise is when we did the incline bench press, the wrists, palms of my hand were facing forward. When doing the dumbbell press, they were facing forward, and now they're facing inwards. because bodybuilding is all about hitting the muscle, the same muscle, from different angles and using slightly different techniques to be able to hit the muscles from as many different angles as possible to make the development as complete as you possibly can. That's what it's all about. And here you can also save your shoulders, which is also a great change and difference between the multi-grip bar compared to the regular bench press barbell, because the most injuries people get in their chest is because of the regular barbell chest press or bench press. With this one, as you can see, the bar path is going forward a bit more, saving the front delts and takes the pressure off of them, really allowing you to only work the chest, which is exactly what you want to work. And here I'm doing another intensifying technique. It's not pause reps anymore, but it's slow negative reps or slow eccentric reps. And the eccentric part, so the part that goes down, damages the muscle the most, and if the muscle is damaged the most, that's where most growth occurs. So whenever doing an exercise, you always want to take into account not to neglect the negative portion of the rep, because if you do, you neglect the biggest part of the whole rep that causes muscle growth and muscle damage. You want to maximize that effect so you can actually take the most out of the entire workout, the entire exercise. And whenever doing slow eccentric reps, you always want to have a spotter with you, because the eccentric portion of the rep is a lot stronger compared to the positive portion. So you want to have someone lift up the weight for you and you slowly lower it yourself. That way you can go well beyond failure and make that technique even more intensifying. And now it's time for the cable flies. Still one of my favorites to do. I always also like the dumbbell flies, but here you get a constant tension, because if you look at all the exercises we did the incline bench press, there's no real contraction at the top. With the dumbbell press, also no real contraction at the top, and the multi-grip bar, also no real contraction. So you want to do at least one exercise where you get that full range of motion, where at the shortest part of the range of motion you can actually contract the muscle under tension. If you never do this, you won't create the same quality muscle that you would if you do contract it. So here I already noticed that my chest is quite weak, because we already did 3 quite intense compound movements for the chest, and since I don't want to use my triceps during any of those movements, it really is the chest that is the most fatigued. And you can notice that when doing an isolation movement like the cable flies, that the chest is fatigued, because I wasn't able to do quite heavy, so I just repped out whatever weight I could do of around 10 to 15 reps. And then an old school classic that hasn't been seen on this channel for quite a while, the Dumbbell Pullover. It was one of my favorites for a long time, and I haven't done it consistently in a long time either, but I'm planning on doing it again. And in my opinion, it might be a myth, it might be a fairy tale to a lot of people, but I do think that if you start doing this exercise early in your bodybuilding career, when you're still young, like when I started doing this exercise, I was like 16 years old, still in my early growth years, I do believe it can increase the size of your rib cage. That's one of the reasons why the old school bodybuilders actually used to do the dumbbell pullovers. And if you do them really heavily, it can also improve the shoulder mobility, shoulder health. And because I've been doing them for a whole lot of years back in the day, I noticed that my shoulders never really got sore or in pain or anything like that whenever training the chest. It's when I stopped doing them when I started to feel some front delt pain once more, and that I noticed my mobility was decreasing, because the dumbbell pullover forces you into a range of motion you could not get into without this weight. So when you consistently do this exercise at least 2 times a week, you will notice drastic differences in shoulder mobility, shoulder health, and also you stretch out the intercostals and all the abdominal abdominal muscles, you work on the vacuum, as you can see, and that's just a great way to work a lot of muscles in the upper body. But what I am focusing on is I'm focusing on the chest contractions here. So when I'm going down, I'm trying to keep my elbows together in my mind, allowing to stretch the chest at the bottom, and by keeping them together at the top as well, I actually contract the chest, and that allows me to make it a very good chest movement, because we all know that this exact same movement can be used for the lats and the serratus muscles of the back as well. So whenever doing the back you can do this movement, and whenever doing the chest you can do this movement, but it does require a whole lot of mind-muscle connection. So here I am very happy I'm able to do some tricep movements again, and it's funny when you are a professional bodybuilder, you can see all the minute details in your physique, and I did notice that the fullness of the left tricep was starting to get a little less full compared to the right tricep. Not so much the small head, because I was quite early on able to do this very exercise which emphasizes the small head, but more the long head of the tricep, because doing any form of overhead movements or even a close grip bench press was pretty much impossible to do because the elbow was hurting quite a lot. So I still was working the right tricep, because it has been proven that if you work one arm at least, the one arm you're not working will still not go down as much compared to if you stop working altogether. So here I'm first warming up the triceps using a slow eccentric rep once again, so slowly going upwards, feeling the stretch in the tricep, and then when going downwards a little more explosively. I would do it a lot more if the tricep wasn't hurting at all, but here I'm being careful because I don't want to aggravate it again, and you cannot rush recovery from any form of injury, and I really do believe this tricep was injured for real when doing very heavy movements, because whenever I did a heavy movement I could actually feel the tricep tendon almost tearing from the bone, and that's not a feeling you want to have as a bodybuilder prepping for the Mr. Olympia. So now we're properly warmed up to the triceps, and we're only doing one more movement, because the triceps, just like the biceps, have their own separate day on an arm day, where I start with the triceps and end with the biceps. So this is just some overhead tricep extension. Here I can actually work the long head pain-free. I still have to do a lot more sets to warm it up completely and efficiently, but I'm still able to contract and stretch it quite nicely for sure. And unfortunately this is the last set I can show you, because after this the battery of the camera died. But I did, I think, 2 or 3 more sets after this. Of course, at least one of them going to failure with a few more forced reps, but that was the workout of today. I really want to thank you for watching. We have a lot more footage and videos coming for you guys. Again, thanks a lot for the incredible golden support, and do not forget to stay golden. Fearless.